Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jessica Johnson. I am the founder and executive director of the Scholarship Academy, and I will be talking to you all about navigating the scholarship gold mine. A few housekeeping things. If you're logged in at this time, you can feel free to post a question in the chat space, and I will gladly respond and repeat your question and respond live for you to hear. Again, my name is Jessica Johnson. I am a recipient of over $200,000 in scholarships, so I definitely want this to be an interactive session for you all to learn about ways that you can find money to pay for your college education. If you are in the chat room, if you want to just give me an idea of who you are, where you're from, if you are a student or a parent, what year in school, and just start thinking now about questions that you might have, because I'd love to be able to support you in the scholarship process. And also post a note if you're not able to hear me okay at this time. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into my presentation. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the Scholarship Academy. So the Scholarship Academy happens to have the nation's only scholarship prep curriculum. We specialize in teaching students how to combine the principles of leadership, civic engagement, and entrepreneurship to make themselves stand out more to scholarship committees. Last year, our students got over $5 million in scholarships, and that was with the average GPA of a 2.5. You can see there our college acceptance rate is relatively high, and our students are winning money ranging from $500,000 to $350,000, and on average, they reduce their debt by about $14,000 a year. So why does that even matter? The average student loan debt is $25,000. 70% of the students that drop out of college do so because of money. For a lot of students, one of the biggest issues is they have enough money to get into college, and they're able to maybe get a one-time scholarship from a community organization, or they're able to get a partial scholarship, and they have just enough to last them the first year, the second year, and then they aren't able to replace those renewable scholarships. But then also what typically happens is they forget that tuition increases on an average of 3 to 5% on most college campuses. So right now, I graduated from Howard University in 2004. Howard is 51% more expensive for the tuition than it was when I was a student there, and that was about a decade ago. So in the last 10 years, tuition has jumped up an extra 50%. So I want to talk to you today about not only having enough money to get into college, but being able to have enough money to actually stay in college and graduate. Why is this important? So the average guidance counselor only has roughly 38 minutes per student to help you navigate the entire college application and financial aid process. That's 38 minutes to figure out what you're going to study, what your top school choices are, and then also trying to help you figure out how you're going to pay for it. So really want to think about not just getting into college, but getting into a college that is not going to strap you with debt once you graduate. All right, move on. So let's talk a little bit about the average cost of college. So we just listed really quickly for you some of the numbers related to the overall college experience. These are just tuition numbers that are reflected here. But if you want to stay in-state just for tuition for 1 year, the average is $14,333. If you're looking at an out-of-state school, an out-of-state public school is going to run you about $25,000 a year. Private schools are averaging about $34,000 a year, but there are definitely some colleges that are in the $40,000 and $50,000 range. And so I think where families make the biggest mistake is they don't take the time to really get a solid grasp on how much it's going to cost them to attend that particular university, and then set a goal. A big part of this is you got to know where you're going, and so you absolutely want to set a scholarship goal that is attainable. So if So as I mentioned before, I had over $200,000 in scholarships. By the time I finished my junior year in high school, I had raised approximately $50,000 in scholarships. So most families are waiting until this time of year. Like, so if you're a senior and it's February and you have not already submitted 5 applications, you're already behind the 8 ball, because you're trying to come up with, let's say, 25,000 times 4, $100,000. That's somebody's mortgage that you're trying to raise in literally the next 3 to 4 months. But I definitely want to put that in perspective. The earlier you start, the better. You want to give yourself as much time as possible to create a college funding action plan for your family. And that means having a good mix of local and national scholarships so that you can reach your scholarship goal. So if your goal is to raise $20,000, then you can't it's going to take you a long time to get there, winning $500 at a time for different scholarship awards. So it starts with setting a goal, understanding what the actual cost of college is going to be, and then making sure that you educate yourself on the financial aid lingo. Colleges are big businesses, and so they're going to give you whatever financial aid package you're willing to accept. It's really important for you to know the difference between a subsidized and an unsubsidized loan. Most families don't realize that they have the option of submitting a financial aid appeal letter. So if the college doesn't give you the maximum amount of tuition that you believe you deserve, a financial aid appeal letter is an awesome way to go back to the university and say, here's how I think I can be an asset to your campus. What are my options to reduce the overall debt that I would have to incur to attend this institution? And so you want to start kind of having those conversations early and mapping out all of your different alternatives so that you end up giving yourself the best chance to go to college without debt. I listed 2 websites here that I think would really be helpful. The first is the Project on Student Debt. It's an awesome program where about 60 colleges and universities around the country have taken a pledge to either drastically reduce or completely eliminate the amount of debt that you would have to take out to fund your education. So you want to think about, if you haven't kind of narrowed down your college choices, I would recommend taking a look at that website, clicking on the Financial Aid Pledge tab, and finding out which schools are really working hard to reduce student debt. We hear all the time that colleges are now looking at cutting their tuition. They're helping students be more aggressive about finding private scholarships. You want to find a college that is working for you. Like, it's a joint effort to make sure that you have the money you need to be able to stay and graduate. The second website, thecollegecost.ed.gov, that is a federal site, and I'd strongly recommend that you log on and get an idea of what the average student is paying to attend your top college choice. It'll tell you what's the average amount of grants students are getting at your university, what percentage of students are on grants. If you're trying to make your final decisions right now, again, it's really, really critical that you look at these numbers and make sure that it makes financial sense for you to attend that particular college or university. I know a lot of guidance counselors promote good fit colleges. To me, a good fit college is one that you can not only get into, but you can also pay for. So these 2 websites should hopefully give you a bit of direction. And again, feel free to stop me and ask questions at any time, so I'd be happy to answer them along the way. Okay. So let's talk about some things that you can do to increase your scholarship eligibility. And remember, the whole idea is really making you successful in navigating the scholarship search line. So the first thing is going to be understanding what your scholarship brand is. A lot of students want to focus on the overall scholarship application. They want to focus on a list of scholarships. And so there's tons of websites that you can visit that'll give you lists of resources. There's scholarships.com, there's fastweb.com, College Board has an awesome program called Big Futures. And so if you're looking for a list, then that's where you would want to start. I would strongly recommend that you think beyond the list. Think about these first 3 questions. Who are you? What's great about you? What have you done that's worth somebody's money? So thinking about what you bring to the table that would make a scholarship program want to invest $5,000, $10,000, $100,000 in you is really, really important. There are 5 major types of students that scholarship committees are looking for. I'll use one as an example, the community service guru. So if you've completed a lot of community service, if you have had an impact on a cause that you care about in your community, you would probably fall under the community service guru. And when I say that, I'm not talking about projects that were kind of one-time short requirements for school. I mean, you're not going to get $20,000 for Christmas caroling at the nursing home and doing canned food drives, but you want to start thinking about what types of projects could you do that would be noticeable to scholarship committees. Every year I serve on a number of local and national scholarship committees, and the key is to really find something that's memorable, and the easiest way to do that is to connect it to the things that you're already passionate about. When I was in high school, I was interested in the arts, and I was really troubled by the fact that gang violence was becoming a big deal in my hometown of Jackson, Tennessee. And so I wrote a play that exposed the effects of young people being involved in gangs, and we got 500 young people in my community to commit to drug-free, gang-free lives. So that's how I was able to secure my first $100,000 in scholarships. I found a need in my community. I figured out a way that I could address that need in a pretty big way, and then I was able to track the impact that I had. So once you identify your brand and figure out who you are and what's great about you, the next step is going to be being realistic about your scholarship options. So while everyone loves to apply for the Gates Millennium Scholarship Program and for the Coca-Cola Scholars Program, they're awesome opportunities. It's a lot of money, and it would be really incredible. Coca-Cola got over 80,000 applications for their first round. The Gates Millennium Scholarship Program got 23,000 applications. So you want to start thinking about being a little realistic about your scholarship options. So if you know you haven't done a lot of community service, you haven't demonstrated strong leadership, then maybe Gates is not a great fit for you, or maybe Coca-Cola is not the best option for you. Or if you know your GPA is a little lower, you want to be realistic, because for a lot of scholarship programs, the entire first round of applications is an elimination round for students who don't meet the criteria, and also students who aren't as competitive as they could be, and then students who don't follow directions. So those are the 3 easiest ways to get eliminated from some of these major competitions. So there's $106.7 billion in financial aid available to undergraduate students. 2/3 of all undergraduate students are using some type of aid to fund their education. So I wanted to make sure that I made a note of that, because I don't want you to feel discouraged. I know there's always students, there's no money out there, there's a lot of competition. The reality is there's tons of money out there, but you have to really kind of be strategic in your research efforts. So instead of focusing on the big national scholarships, maybe you take a look at some of the local resources that might be readily available to you. For instance, local sororities and fraternities that offer scholarships, civic groups like the Urban League, Young Professionals, the Elks, the Rotary Club, the Masons, the Eastern Stars. All of these are local organizations that would be more likely to be familiar with the types of organizations that you volunteered with. They'd be familiar with the clubs and organizations that you joined, and they're much more likely to make an investment in you, because the competition is not going to be as tight. So instead of competing against 23,000 applicants, and maybe you compete against the 23 individuals in your community who took the time to do the extra research to find those local scholarship opportunities. So you want to think about how can you start small? How can you start with organizations you're already involved in? What organizations are your parents involved in? And then think about anything about you that's unique, any characteristics you have that would make you stand out. So for instance, if you have asthma, there's scholarships for that. There's scholarships for having allergies. There's scholarships for skateboarding. So any hobbies that you have, any health conditions, if you happen to have any learning disabilities, I'd recommend that you make an inventory of everything about you that is unique, everything about your family background that is unique, and then start there in terms of your research. I'm not saying don't look at some of the major scholarship databases, but if you really want to increase your chances of winning money, focus on the money that other students aren't looking for. That would be my best advice. And then the same thing, have your parents find out whether or not their place of employment gets scholarship options. Have your parents check and see if they have accounts with local credit unions. All of these avenues will decrease your competition and increase the likelihood that you would be one of the strongest candidates for those particular awards. Does that make sense? Awesome. The third thing that you can do to really increase your eligibility for top scholarship awards is to put a process to the process. So I think that the scholarship application process can absolutely be overwhelming if you allow it to be so. So you want to think about ways that you can really decrease the stress in this process and increase your likelihood of winning. So for instance, go ahead now and request 3 to 5 copies of your official transcript, so that when applications come, you're not rushing trying to get a guidance counselor to print out a transcript for an upcoming award. You should also go ahead and just keep a folder with all your resume, any recommendation letters that you have them saved to a flash drive so you can just change it to meet the criteria of that particular award, and then print it out so that the teacher can sign it again. So all of these little things will make the process much easier. You kind of can have these pre-made portfolios to go out the door. My experience over the years has been this truly has to be more of a family affair. So I've seen some parents get as structured as setting up Google calendars with upcoming deadlines, and everyone gets a text message when something is due, or you put a chart up on the refrigerator with applications that are out, which ones you still need to get information for, and which ones you're waiting to hear back from. But you really have to have a process going to make sure that it's manageable for a couple of reasons. Can't tell you how many committees I've served on in the past, and we have trouble locating the student to let them know they've won. So they may have given us a cell phone number that's disconnected, or they may have moved, or they're not checking their email. So you want to make sure that you're keeping track of when you're supposed to hear back from the scholarship program, so if they need additional information from you, you're able to provide that information in a timely manner. And then when you win, you absolutely want them to be able to reach you so that they can give you directions on how to receive your award. So the 3 things, just as a reminder, figure out what your scholarship brand is. Who are you? What's great about you? What have you done that's worth someone's money? Thinking about being realistic about your scholarship options, so you want to start small and then build your way up so that nobody can beat you in that category. The idea would be to keep increasing your levels of engagement. So if you've maxed out on the local scholarships, think it's state by state, and then you go for the national scholarship opportunities, and you want to put a process to the process to make sure that you're not leaving any stone unturned. All right, so let's take a minute, and I want you to think about your own scholarship journey. Think about where you are right now, and think about what the primary resources are that you have readily available to you to help you navigate the entire scholarship application process. So the first one would be, for instance, your affiliations. So what organizations are you currently involved with? Are you a member of DECA? Are you a member of FBLA? Are there any other organizations that you're connected to? So have you been a member of the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA? You want to start reaching out to those organizations to find out about their scholarship deadlines and opportunities that they might have. And even if they don't directly give scholarships, they should be able to point you in the direction of resources that you have a stronger chance of winning. I mentioned earlier about your parents' organizations and affiliations, making sure that you're connected with them and you have an idea of what they can bring to the table to support your entire application process. And then finally looking at community organizations, state-based organizations, and finally the national organizations. So Gates is great. There's quite a few websites that will have a list of maybe the top 50 scholarships. I would recommend DoSomething.org. Two resources I like to point students towards here in the state of Georgia, of course, is Georgia College 411, which provides a wealth of information on resources for Georgia students in particular. Also, that's where you get the information on the Georgia Hope Scholarship and your eligibility. You want to make sure that you note that the Georgia Hope eligibility is based on your GPA in your core academic courses, and so that does not necessarily include your elective elective courses. So making sure that you're aware of that and you've been in communication with your guidance counselor if you believe you meet HOPE eligibility and you're planning to stay in state. For students specifically in the Atlanta area here in Georgia, I would recommend AtlantaScholarships.com. It has a good list of some of the local civic groups and organizations that provide money in the Atlanta area, some of the ones that I've mentioned already. But really and truly, your guidance counselor should have a pretty solid list of resources from churches, from community groups in your area, from professional associations that have chapters in your area. These are all places that you want to tap into and make sure you have a strong list. So how many scholarships should you apply for? That's a great question. I believe that I hear all the time students apply for 100 scholarships and they don't win any, and they get discouraged and they end up taking out loans. My recommendation would be applying for a really solid number of 15 to 20 scholarship options. That way, and making sure it's a good mix between local, state, and national resources. That way, you are really kind of spreading out your chances. So 15 to 20 applications that are a good fit application, that are looking for students who fit into your particular profile. That would be the ideal number. October, November, and December are really heavy national scholarship deadline months for my seniors, and then January through March are heavy local scholarship deadline months. So you should really pay attention to the trends in the funding, because this is the time of year where you're going to kind of get most of the local groups and some of the state-based aid, but it's going to be the $5,000 in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, whereas some of the bigger money opportunities like Coca-Cola, like Elks Most Valuable Student, and a few others, the deadlines for those have already passed. So to recap, I would strongly recommend that you check with your guidance counselor to find out if there's any applications that are coming up that you could take advantage of. If your guidance counselor isn't as helpful, then Georgia College 411 is an awesome resource, but also check the websites of the other high schools in your community. 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a guidance counselor in your area who's posted a scholarship newsletter for seniors or resources. And I keep saying seniors, but I do want to emphasize that underclassmen should also absolutely take advantage of scholarships. There's scholarships out there for second graders, so it's never too early to get in the habit of putting together a quality application. You don't want to wait until your senior year and allow that to be your first opportunity for having to gather all the information, write a competitive application, and also get everything submitted on time. So I'd strongly recommend that junior year you really look at ways that you could map out a solid scholarship action plan. Looks like my slides got a little jumbled. I wanted to talk quickly about the essay, and again, if you're just joining us, if you have a question, please go ahead and type it, and I will repeat your question and answer it, and feel free to stop me at any time, because I want to make sure if you logged in today that we're giving you the information you need to kind of build your entire scholarship portfolio. So a lot of times students are able to write well, but writing competitively is an entirely different ballgame. So I want to talk really quickly about the difference between an essay that'll get you an A in English class and an essay that'll get you $50,000 in scholarships. So my first rule is grammar. So when I'm on a scholarship selection committee, if there's a grammatical error within the first 2 paragraphs, I throw the application away, because if you didn't take the time, I'm absolutely not going to waste my time trying to decipher what it is that you're trying to say, especially if it's my personal money. You have to kind of think of it like you are an investment portfolio, and so if I'm looking to make an investment in you, I need to feel confident that first, you're ready for college, and grammar is the easiest way for me to say they might not be ready for a college experience. And then second, that you took the time enough to put together a quality application because you cared about what I thought about you. So if you wouldn't show up in a job interview in jeans and t-shirt, then I absolutely say that your application is your first representation of you. So when it's messy, when it's scratched through, when it's grammatically incorrect, I'm getting all these indicators that you didn't take the time to put together a thoughtful application, and I'm probably going to skim your application and put it to the side. Sorry. the applications that really pass my test are ones that are memorable. You have to put it in perspective. If 100 other students have your exact same GPA and test scores, why would I pick you? What is it about you that would make me, first of all, actually remember your application, and then feel so connected to your application that I would want to give you my financial award? So a lot of times students will come up with a theme for their essays. So one year I read a young lady's essay, and she talked about going on a journey and packing her knapsack with the tools that she needed to be successful, such as her internships and her summer programs. And she took me on a journey, and by the end of the essay I felt like I knew her, and I felt confident enough to make an investment in her. Even though it came down between her and another applicant, I felt that strongly about her because of the way she packaged her application. Having a comprehensive, reflective response to the essay prompt is also really, really important. There's some essay questions out there that are meant to stump you. So for instance, when they say, who do you admire the most? And you write the entire essay about your mother or your grandmother, and I don't get to learn anything about you. No matter what the essay question is about, it's actually about you. And at the end of the day, I'm going to give my money to you and not your mother or not your community hero. So you always want to find a way to use yourself as the example of the answer that this scholarship program is looking for. One year we had a student make it to the finals round for the Ron Brown essay competition. The question was, what are the characteristics that a leader must have in the 21st century? And so after reading about 150, 200 essays, in which students talked about a leader must be committed to being successful, a leader must be determined, a leader must be technologically savvy. Our student wrote about a leader must be comfortable with being a failure, and he talked about a time when he was in a leadership position and he failed, and the awesome opportunities that he was able to learn from that experience and transform it into life lessons that he took with him on to college. So you want to think about how you can use yourself as an example of the answer that they're actually looking for. The next thing is concrete examples of facts. So if I am in D.C. and on a National Scholarship Committee and you're in Atlanta and you're telling me about the Brother to Brother program in Atlanta, I may not be familiar with that program. What I will be familiar with is you saying that through the Brother to Brother program, I raised $5,000 to feed 150 people for a week in my community. Okay, so give me numbers. Don't just tell me that you fed a lot of people or you went out and raised some money. Give me actual dollar amounts. How much time did it take you to do that? Was this a project that took you an hour, or was this a project you did over an entire semester? I'm looking for your level of effort. When you want to think about, why do people give away their money? I give my money away to students that remind me of me. So I did a lot of service work. I care about people, and I want to give my money to the next generation of young people who are going to care about others. So you want to start thinking about, how can you prove that with my money, you're not only going to be successful, but you're doing projects now that impact a large number of people in your community. Now, once you get your degree, you're easily going to be able to impact 1,000 people or 5,000 people. And so as a scholarship committee member, I love to see the growth potential of my dollars. So when you provide concrete examples of the work that you've done, it really helps me make a sound case for making an investment in you. The final thing is inclusion of specific experiences to support your overall themes. So if you were a tutor, for instance, and you've helped little Johnny learn you increased his reading scores by an entire grade level. I want to see little Johnny's face by the time I finish reading your application. So any ways you can personalize it, any ways that you can create sensitive imagery, those are things that would absolutely make your application stand out more. Any specific questions I can answer for anyone? So what is one of the biggest mistakes that students make in the application process? I think one of the biggest mistakes that students make when they're putting together their scholarship essay is they put their resume in paragraph form. And so they want to list everything that they've ever done and cram it into one application, and it's overwhelming. It is information overload. You want to tailor your scholarship application the same way you would tailor a resume for a job, because the reality is I'm going to give your application 5 to 7 minutes of my undivided attention, and in those 5 to 7 minutes I'm going to want to know who are you, what's great about you, what you've done that's worth my money, who you're going to be in 10 years that I can invest in. And the application has to match. So if I'm on the Society of Women Engineers Scholarship Committee, for instance, and you're telling me about how much you love cheerleading, I'm probably not as interested in your cheerleading. But then when your math teacher talks about your math skills, and then you get another recommendation letter from the drama teacher, there's all these conflicting messages about who you are in one application that it's harder for me to make a case for why we should give you our money. So you want to think about not jamming everything that you've ever done into one application, but instead focusing on the activities that matter the most to that particular scholarship committee. So if I'm on the Society of Women Engineers Scholarship Committee, I'm going to want to know about the math summer camp that you participated in. I'm going to want to know about the robotics team that you compete with every year, and you might happen to be the only girl on the team, but you really use that to your advantage. Those are the types of things that would make me want to give you my money, because they're connected to things that I would care about. So you want to start thinking about who's on the committee, what do they care about the most, and then how can you speak their values back to them so it increases your chances of winning awards. Any other questions that you guys can think of that I could answer? Don't be shy. You can type your questions in the box, and I'd be happy to make sure that we point you in the right direction for this for the scholarship application process. Okay. Let me go. Right, so I put my contact information up in case you think of a question that you did not get a chance to answer today. Again, my name is Jessica Johnson. I'm the founder and executive director of the Scholarship Academy. We're the home of the nation's only scholarship prep curriculum. I definitely hope that you got some good tips today that would get you started in the scholarship application process. There's a wealth of information online. I'd say take some time. When I was in school, my parents made me spend 3 to 5 hours every week doing something related to my college and scholarship process. So I'd strongly recommend that you take some time out and just map out your own college funding plan. Think about what you've done that would make somebody want to invest in you from a community service perspective or a leadership perspective, or if you've had to overcome any particular obstacles that you think scholarship committees would be interested in knowing about. Do the research on the local, state, and national level for scholarship entities that might be looking for a student that fits your particular profile. And then finally, put together a competitive essay from start to finish. The entire application has to connect and make sense. So ultimately, you want to create a feeling after I've read your application, if it gets down between you and another applicant, I would want to fight for you. And so thinking about ways that you can create imagery, give me specific examples of facts, and also make your application memorable. That's the most important thing. I think that a lot of students just write it like they would for English class. So our website is on the screen there. Again, the Scholarship Academy, the phone number. You can follow us on Twitter. We post scholarship information pretty regularly here in Georgia. And hopefully you got some great tips. I look forward to connecting with you all again real soon. Take care.